Well, in this how-to tutorial by me, John Tyler, I'm going to show you 350Z owners like myself how to change the bulbs in the front end of your car. You have two headlights out front and you got a little reflector down below. Well, in a previous video, I've changed out my reflectors to now be LED lit from behind. And you can go view that if you want to do it yourself. I think my 350Z is the only one that has these like that. I mean, they have daytime running lights with turn signals and all that. They're expensive. And there's two control boxes, and then there's 5 or 6 different wiring schematics. Now, mine was real easy. But anyway, go view that if you'd like to convert your 350Z front bumper reflectors, the amber reflectors, and you want to keep it amber and you want to make it look cool, then go watch that how-to video. This video, because of my experience with the 350Z doing bulb changing both ways, I'm going to show you which way that I would not do it again and which way I would always do it. Let's say the low beam, that xenon low beam headlight went out. Well, it's either going to be a bad headlight, or in my case, it was a bad ballast, where some idiot prior owner pulled the wheel well, it's a little plastic cover, but it's a wheel well retainer. He pulled it off, changed the bulb at one point, never put the retainer back in. So as the wheel is turning, it's throwing any water from rain or puddles up into where the headlight would be. And then if you get any water in that headlight, then you are going to suffer a bad ballast, because it's going to float to the bottom of the headlight, which is where the ballast is. And they're never sealed correctly all the time. So I had a bad ballast nonetheless. But when you go to change that, just that one stupid bulb, the xenon low beam, right below that, as you already know if you own a 350Z, there's another xenon bulb, that's the high beam. And believe me, I've been all over the headlight, inside, outside, you name it. So when the low beam goes, you have this choice. Pull the front wheel off, put a jack under the car, a screw jack or a pump jack or whatever you want to do. Jack the car up, pull the wheel off. Then you got to look at that plastic retainer in the front that goes toward the headlight. Then when you get that done, which is a pain in the fanny because there's little plastic clips in, there's a screw in there up in the wheel well, and it's hard to find. And some people put what do you call those little ties, black or white ties, probably black to match, ties to hold the bottom in, and it's all kinds of stuff. So that takes quite a while. Then you got to reach up in there with your big fat hand, and there's a tan plastic cap that's about this big. Then you got to take that and try to unseat that thing. You turn it to the counterclockwise, and it's got 5 or 6 little divots in there that you have to line up when you put it back together. Then there's an O-ring seal in that cap. So if you finally get it off, which my idiot guy before me never put that back on either, by the way. So once you get that off, then you'll see a little aluminum cap. You got to twist that. Then you pull that out. Then you're going to see the bulb, but you're going to see 2 little retainer clips that you got to push spring-loaded. You have to put your finger on one of the little retainers, pull it back, drop it down, release it. Then you got to fish in with your other finger. With your left hand, right hand, doesn't make any difference. You got to get up in there. And then you push that retainer clip down, over, up, and release that. Then you take the bulb out. Then to replace it, you're going to pull your hair out if you have any. Because then you're going to put the bulb in. But you're going to turn it and turn it and turn it. And it seems like it's never going to line up because it's got 2 slots in it. A wide slot and a little narrow slot. And you got to aim that into the headlight assembly the right way. I'm just giving you this because there's a much easier way to do it. So then you get the bulb in there. If you finally line it up after you swear your brains out or whatever you're going to do, because you're going to get mad, then you have to put that retainer clip back in. And putting that back in where you can't see it because you're up in the wheel well area, you finally get that in, then you put the aluminum cap on, and attached to that aluminum cap, there's a little blue plastic wire. That might fall off. So then you're going to put your headlight on after you put everything back together. That's a ground, by the way, on that aluminum cap you're pulling off. You'll be careful, because if that wire pops off, which mine did, that's how I can tell you, then you turn your headlights on like I did. Poof. What? It doesn't work? Oh, no, now what? So then you got to either, you should test it before you put everything back together anyway, like the wheel well retainer, but just make sure that that little blue cap's on if you're going to do it this way. The other way is going to seem almost impossible. You're going to say, oh man, I don't want to do that. But no matter what you do, changing a xenon headlight in a 350Z, you either got to do all that hard work, or you got to take the front bumper off. You say, oh geez, what's in there, bolts and brackets? And no, it's really easy. In my other video, I go through taking that off, because to change the reflectors down below, I had to take it off. And I'll go into that in just a couple of minutes more. I'll show you. But the easiest, fastest way to do it is pull the front bumper off. And then there are 4 bolts holding each headlight in. My recommendation is this. Look, you want to keep doing, the headlight bulb goes out, then next week the high beam below it goes out, or the turn signal light goes out. That's a beauty they try to get at. Then you have 2 little parking lights. So there's 5 bulbs in each headlight unit. Do you really want to go, and time kills bulbs, as you know. So my idea was to change all 10 bulbs, 5 on the right, 5 in the left. The fastest way, easiest way to get at everything is you pop the front bumper off that you see there, and then you take the headlights, 2 bolts underneath the headlights, which you can clearly get at now with the front bumper off, and there's 1 up in the engine compartment. You unscrew that. Now that's 3, but there's a tricky one in the wheel well, but you only have to peel that retainer back a little tiny bit, and you stick a 10mm socket right there. You can see the bolt, and you turn that, unscrew it. Now you take, to get the bumper off, there's only 5 or 6 bolts on the bottom. You can see them. And you take those bolts out with the 10mm 1/4-inch socket set without an extension on it, because there's no space there, and I didn't want to jack my car up. But it was easy to pull those 6 bolts out. And then on the top, there's 6 plastic retainer push pins. You take a pair of pliers and you just pull them out. Boom, the bumper is off. I can pull my bumper off in, I'd say, 6 minutes, tops. So once you get unscared of doing it, you can do the same thing. So then, like I said, there's 2 bolts for the headlight, each one down below, 1 at the top, and there's 1 in the wheel well retainer to get the bumper off. And then when you get the bumper off, you can see there's a 4th bolt for each headlight. In my case, it's red, but there's a bracket, and there's another 10mm screw there. You just unscrew those, and your headlight comes right out with all the wires attached, of course. But I could move it. I could turn it upside down. I could take that plastic cap off, the big one, like nothing. I could take every bulb out that I wanted to. So for the price of 5 lousy bulbs, which is nothing compared to having to do this all over again, you're smart if you pull all 5 bulbs out of each headlight assembly, put it back in, put the bumper back on, and then, I could do this whole job now that I know how to do it, and have done it, I could do the whole job in about 20 minutes and not, my hands get all whacked up doing the wheel well retainer thing. Anyway, I digress. So let me get on to some more important things. If you see here, I put the bulb number for the parking lights. It's a 168 Sylvania, but I'll go over that. I'll show you all that stuff in just a minute. So stand by, I'll be right back. And just in case you really would like to put LEDs behind those amber non-lit reflectors that are in your 350Z front bumper, I wanted to just show you, these are the ones I did. This happens to be in a room because I did it in a room in my house and hooked up a 12-volt auxiliary battery to it just to show you what it could look like while you have the bumper off. If you'd like to do this, it didn't take me all that long, and it is possible to do it, obviously, because there it is done. They look really cool at night too, and I'll show you that in just a second on our way to talking about bulbs in the 350Z. So these look good this way, and they look really cool at night. This is the same car, all done in my garage. There's all the headlights, and you see on the top of the headlights, there's a little, it's called what I call the top parking light bulb. And then there's the low beam bulb, xenon, high beam xenon bulb, and below that is another parking light bulb. So there, and then up top, above all that, and to the left or the right, let's say the right headlight there, to the left of that is a amber colored turn signal. So if you'd like to have all of this stuff done, especially the bottom half of the bumper while you got it off, go view my other how-to video, and that'll show you how to get that done. Meanwhile, let's go concentrate on taking that bumper off. The easiest way and the best way, instead of working behind that wheel well retainer and pulling the tires off there and having the car fall off the jack or whatever. Okay, be right back. So here it is, a quick pull off of that bumper, which only, right now it would take me roughly 5 minutes to do. But it might take a little bit longer because it might be your first time. So on the bottom of this bumper that you're going to remove, if you're smart, there are 6 bolts and then 2 wheel well bolts that I pointed out here. On the top though, after you get the bottom off, the bottom bolts off, on the very top there you see there are 6 holes in the top, holding the top onto the frame. It's not a big deal when you get at it. You'd think, gee whiz, look at my car, it looks like it's been a horrible accident. But it only takes a few minutes to pop this off. And in those top holes there are just plastic clips, push pins that push in there and hold it down. So you take a pair of pliers and you grab a hold of the circles that you're going to see when you open your hood and just pull those push pins right up. And then if you already got the bottom parts off and the 2 bolts underneath the wheel well retainer that are real easy to get at, and they're all 10mm bolts, except these are not bolts on the top. They're just push pins. So you pull those up. That's your last stop, if you will, before the bumper comes off. And then, to me, I just put it in my house because I was going to work on the 2 reflectors down below, which I already showed you how that looks all done. So let's see what the bottom half of the retainers look like, so that you can pull the bottom bolts out first. So here I'm showing you when you pull the front bumper off of the car, you're going to start at the bottom, and at the bottom there are 6 bolts, and I'm showing you right now that where all my yellow arrows are, you see 6 bolt holes. Not the first holes that your eyes are drawn to, but the ones way out in the front. 6 of them. And then there are 2 up under the fenders, if you would, but the wheel well retainer, you just put your thumb in there and peel that back a little bit, and then take your 10 millimeter or socket on a 1/4 inch socket drive, 10 millimeters, and that's what takes the 6 bolts off the bottom, by the way, with no extension, and then use the extension to peel back that wheel well retainer just a little bit, and you can look in there and see the bolt, single bolt that's right up there that I've already shown you in this illustration. And you want to take that bolt out. That's the right-hand fender bolt, and there's the same on the left-hand side here. So that's how you actually remove the bottom bolts and the 2 side bolts. And then your final thing that we just covered is just to pull those push pins off the top, and that'll release the whole bumper. When you pull the bumper off, just grab a hold of that. It's a rubber black, like a foam rubber. I call that a bumper too. But that's attached to the frame by 2 little parts that stick out. They protrude from the back part of that. Just grab it with 2 hands and pull it out. That way you can get right at and easily see the 2 bottom bolts of your headlight. Then remember, you got the 1 other bolt up the top there in the engine compartment, 10 millimeter bolt you'll take out. And then the 4th bolt is that one that I showed you. If I haven't, I will. That's underneath the wheel well, where you just pull that back with your thumb and put the little 10 millimeter wrench in there with an extension and unscrew that bolt, and then the whole front bumper would come off. But to get at the bulbs, just pull this little rubber bumper away, and you can see the 2 bolts there, the 10 millimeter bolts. Real easy. Now, this is the difference between the new ballast on the left, and that's where that wire will plug into, by the way. See the bottom there, that little gray thing? That's where that snake up wire is going to plug into that. But in the bottom of this ballast, the one to the right, I cleaned that up, but it's shot because, as I said earlier, the previous idiot that owned the car didn't take that good care of maintenance like I do. So water got into the old ballast there on the right, and as you can see, if you saw it at first, you'd see all kinds of crud in there and gravel and black stuff and all that, and it wasn't pretty in there. But now the new one, I think they cost like $38 on Amazon. It's no big deal. So anyway, if you have to change the ballast, that's what they look like. They mount to the bottom of the headlight. It's a quick deal, no big deal. So you want to check your headlight bulb if it's out. The only other way I was sure that it wasn't the bulb was I took that bulb out while I have both headlights out of the car. Remember, the bumper's off, so I flipped over the headlight and unscrewed the other cap on the left-hand headlight and put the xenon bulb into that light, turned the switch on, and the bulb lit. So I knew it wasn't the bulb. I knew with that test it would be the ballast. And it made sense because the guy had left the wheel well retainer off, and the water from the front tire would just splash up in there. Okay, moving on. So I took the headlights out and I put one, this one on my sink in the kitchen. And the reason I do that is it's just so much easier to work on and change all 5 bulbs, put it back in the car. Anyway, when I had to change the ballast, there is a picture of it. It's at the very bottom of the headlight unit itself. You will never, in the future, if the ballast ever lets go, you will never get it out unless you take out the headlight. So there's a picture of that. There's a wire with two leads on it that need to be snaked up to the high beam bulb. That's the hole that I pointed out in this how-to video, where that wire snakes up through. You pull it up through. I had to use a hanger, a coat hanger, and shove the coat hanger down through that hole, and then, you know, put a piece of tape around the wire and pull it up through, because it plugs into the high beam light socket. Okay, that's why I point this out to you. So apparently with this picture, I haven't told you this before, but this is the wire. When you attach your wires from your headlight, you'll see this one with a clip hanging off the bottom. It looks like a green wire and a black wire there, even though it's kind of faded out. It's not the same as the parking light, but it has the parking light bulb has a different connector anyway. But this is the connector that goes up through that hole that I just showed you, and it pulls through the larger hole where both the high and the low beam bulbs are located. So without that wire going up there, you won't be able to hook it up to your high beam bulb. If it sounds complicated, it's not. Once you take your headlight out, you'll see that what I'm talking about is actually in front of your face. Now, as I suggested early on, and my 350Z turned out not to be the xenon light bulb, it turned out to be a bad ballast. And if you flip the headlight over on the bottom of the ballast, as you can see up there, that's where the bottom of the headlight, rather, the ballast is fastened in there with 3 Phillips head screws. Just take a Phillips screwdriver and take those 3 screws out. Some will tell you that there's 3 more screws there, and there are. Pay no attention to what they say, because they're right that there's extra screws there, but you don't need to remove them. Just the 3 there that you can actually see 2 of them. You take those 3 out, and then there's a rubber O-ring seal that holds that in. So just pop that out. And if you're buying a new ballast, I'll show you the difference between the two, then the new one comes with an O-ring anyway. And they're real easy to reinstall. You see the wire going into it, that gray plug there with a red and black and yellow and green wire? Well, that plug is important because it feeds the ballast, but there's also to the bottom of that, you will see that curly looking coil going up through a hole in the bottom of the headlight. That, my friend, you have to pull that out if you're gonna actually physically remove the entire headlight, headlight assembly, which you might want to do. But you're going to remember to snake the wire back up through that hole, because that goes up into where I'll show you that in a minute, but where the high beam headlight is. That wire attaches up to the high beam headlight. Okay, so let's move on. I'm putting this photo up now of my car with both headlights like loose. And what I do is just take a wire and I string the left headlight up, tie it around the hood latch, because when I want to work on it, I'll just take that wire off. And if I take all the wires off, I can bring it in the house. I had to do that to the right headlight, as I pointed out, because it wasn't just the bulb that let go, it was the ballast. Now, with both headlights like this out, you just flip it over. Look in the back, there's 5 bulbs. The top amber colored one is the turn signal, and there's 2 small parking light bulbs, and then there's the 2 main headlight bulbs, the high beam and low beam. So for the cheap money, so that I'd never have to do this again unless a brand new bulb goes, I did it one time, and that should be done. I should be done for years, and it would take you half hour to do this job. Okay, but I just wanted to show you what they look like, all, out of these sockets with the 4 bolts out of the headlights. Now the serious stuff. That's the Getting at the low beam, which you see there with the big silver cap on it that you're going to turn counterclockwise to get it off. You could turn it clockwise or counterclockwise, doesn't make any difference. But when you do grab a hold of that, it's notched. So just turn it counterclockwise and pull it off. Remember that I told you before that little ground wire right up above the silver colored cap there, that is your ground for that system. So if that falls off, which it did for me, working in the wheel well one time instead of doing it the right way, like I'm showing you how to do it, that fell off, and I tested turned the lights on, and the bulb I just changed was dead, brand new one. So I said, how can that be? Anyway, I found out that that wire had fallen off when I reassembled it. So be careful to make sure that ground wire is on. Now, up above that one, which is really below, this whole thing is upside down so I could write some words up on it. But above that silver cap, which if you actually look at your headlight, it's below it. If you're looking at your headlight, outside of the car when it's all together, below it is the high beam. That's that little smaller hole that you see there highlighted with my yellow arrow. The connection for let me show you the retainers just to get, you unscrew that little silver coupler and that'll expose the bulb. Watch. Okay, so I flipped that over for you, and right below the main xenon bulb that you see up above there is the hole where I remove the high beam bulb, which is also a xenon bulb. That's where it goes. The parking bulb, the lower parking light bulb, where I use the green and black wire to run my two bumper amber reflector lights and made them LED lights, that plugs into that hole there. Now look up above where I just showed you the high beam hole, and you'll see the regular xenon low beam bulb. And when you take that silver cap off and expose the bulb, you'll see those two metal retainer clips. You can see the little notches that they're in. Just push it with your thumb or your finger, pull it down over to the left and release it. Same with the one up the top. Now those will be, if you're doing your driver's side headlight, well, it doesn't matter. If you got the headlight out and loose like you should, you just flip it over and there it is. So it's real easy to do. Once you release those two retainer clips, then all you have to do is take the bulb out. And when you take it out straight, look at it, because there's two little notches there. One's a little larger notch, the one's a little smaller one next to it. It has to go back in that way. Okay, let's go see what bulb numbers we need. Again, this is the green wire, the black wire on my parking light, the lower parking light bulb, which is a Sylvania number 168. That goes into the hole that I just showed you. But if you ever want to tap into your 12 volts for your reflector lights, LEDs, that's the one you want to tap into. And there's two of these per headlight unit. One goes underneath the reflector way up the top of the headlight assembly. It's amber colored plastic, you'll know. You have the 350Z, so you'll know. But one of these bulbs goes in there, and the other one is the lower parking light bulb, which I use, as I say, to tap into the power there, so that when I turn my either parking lights on or headlights, my two bumper reflectors that are now LED amber lights light. But these two bulbs, see, Sylvania Long Life, get them at any parts store, order them online, Amazon. It's a number 168 bulb. So let's go see what those amber turn signal bulbs look like and what those numbers are. And you should change all 5 bulbs in each light assembly while you got the thing apart. Do it once and forget it for years. Okay, so your turn signals are a 7440A Sylvania long life bulb. Let's hope it's long life, right? These are your turn signal lights. You only need 2, 1 for each headlight. The other little parking light bulbs, you need 4. 2 in headlight A, 2 in headlight B. These here, you know, it's so cheap. Why would you not, if you got the headlight out, why not just change all 5 bulbs? And like I said, you'll be done with the thing for years and years to enjoy your beautiful 350Z. And I wanted to just leave you with the idea again of, while you got the bumper off, go look at my other how-to video, and I can show you how, and I do, and I did it, how you can make those 2 little reflector lights on your car look like these LEDs. They're beautiful. Anyway, see you next time.